Hello and welcome to Viz Facts. Today, we've highlighted the top 20 series of 2022 to watch on Amazon Prime. These are some of the best Amazon Prime series and movies you can stream right now. Number 1. The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Amazon rarely has made a bigger bet than The Rings of Power. With only one season at the moment, the show lives up to its hype. Set in Middle-earth, still unscathed by the creation of Mordor, Rings of Power follows Galadriel and a cast of other characters as they begin to uncover the evil that lurks just below the surface of the world. Thanks to its huge budget, Rings of Power looks great, and has an epic scale we haven't seen since The Lord of the Rings hit theaters. Number 2. Reacher. Jack Reacher has already been adapted for the big screen, but Reacher is the first attempt to bring this beloved character to the small screen. After trying to blend in, Reacher is soon accused of murder and must prove his innocence. This hook proves quite compelling on its own, but the series only goes further than that. Corruption, lots of action, and probably everything a show about Jack Reacher should have. Number 3. The Terminal List. Chris Pratt's latest foray into the world of action filmmaking tells the story of a Navy SEAL returning home from a mission where his entire platoon was ambushed, but life at home isn't quiet. The show is action-forward in a good way, and has some solid set pieces that surpass many of what Netflix has to offer. Further confirmation worth adding to the list. Number 4. As We See It. Despite being cancelled after one season, As We See It is still worth watching. The show follows a trio of 3 young adults living on the spectrum and their counselor to test their commitment to them and their own. I am following the state of trying to balance. This show is heartfelt, but never dangerous, and ends up being one of the more positive and kind TV shows. If you're looking for something healthy, As We See It is for you. Number 5. Making the Cut. If you're looking for something to fill a hole in your heart on the Project Runway, Making the Cut is for you. Show stars Heidi Klum and Tim Gunn host 12 designers who must prove they have what it takes to succeed in the fashion world. Of course, this includes their designs, but it also includes other important elements of the business. Great looks by good designers and a great way to see some less successful efforts. Number 6. A Very English Scandal. There is a very British mini-series from the BBC, A Very British Scandal, that tells the story of a shocking and brutal political event in the 70 seconds that uses humor to make you cringe. Surprisingly, Jeremy Thorpe's political career is based on a true story, and when he receives blackmail threats from his gay ex-lover, he responds with a series of sloppy threats and violence. Number 7. Invincible. Based on Robert Kirkman's comic book series of the same name, Invincible is an animated superhero story like no other. 17-year-old Mark Grayson is the greatest superhero on TV, with his father, the most powerful superhero alive, and his dark past in one of his stories. Once you know, you slowly begin to master your powers. Number 8. The Expanse. A sci-fi series based on the book of the same name, The Expanse is the perfect combination of contemplative and breathtaking narrative. In a future where humanity has spread and colonized the solar system, many factions living on different planets have separated from each other, finding new grounds for interspecies conflict. Number 9. The Boys. What if superheroes are really just overpowered corporate villains in disguise? Amazon's original series The Boys dives into this. After losing his girlfriend to a drug-addicted superhero, a young man named Huey Campbell seeks to go the other side of these powerful heroes and overthrow the corrupt system once and for all. Number 10. Workaholics. Workaholics is a great, easy-to-watch comedy series that anyone who likes partying and mockery will enjoy. It's a totally silly take on what happens when college guys drop out of college, but they really didn't want to leave, later forced to work. Number 11. How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother is a charming and genuinely funny sitcom featuring familiar faces that follows a group of friends through life in New York City. It focuses primarily on the story of Ted Mosby and is narrated by his character. With 9 seasons to play, you'll enjoy the fast pace and lovable characters. Number 12. Catastrophe. What happens if nothing goes according to plan? Normally this would be called a catastrophe, but in the case of the Amazon series Catastrophe, it's quite different. While on a business trip, she impregnated an Irish woman, Sharon. From this miraculous accident, a family was born to the two unexpectedly. But don't worry, it's much more hilarious. Number 13. Vikings. Fictionalizing 9th century Scandinavia, Vikings is a deeply immersive show that loosely traces the brutal introduction of the Vikings to the European world. While the show doesn't claim to be historically accurate, some of the characters are based on real historical figures who changed the world forever. Number 14. Good Omens. If you're looking for a little comedy, a little fantasy, and a little of heaven and hell, Good Omens is for you. This miniseries follows the story of a failed Armageddon from the perspective of angels and demons. Specifically, we discover that angels and demons are actually good friends despite their differences. Number 15. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Mrs. Maisel is a hard-working housewife in the late 1950s 50s and very cheerful. When her life fell apart and her husband left her, she decided to become a stand-up comic. In spite of all the hardships, her talent shines through and she slowly becomes a star. I'm starting to find my way to the dam. Number 16. Electric Dreams. This anthology sci-fi series is very similar to Netflix's Black Mirror. The first season of Electric Dreams offers a series of standalone stories that filter humanity's technological future through a dark and often deeply uncomfortable lens. Each episode is inspired by his famous science fiction writer Philip K. Dick. The story of Philip K. Dick is the basis for his two best sci-fi films, Blade Runner and Minority Report. Number 17. Red Oaks. While it may initially feel like it's trying to target nostalgia for Caddyshack, Red Oaks is actually a fun take on classic 1980s coming-of-age comedies that doesn't rely on lazy callbacks or costume gags. It's an ode. When college student David Myers enlists as a tennis coach at a New York country club, he naturally falls in love with the club's president's daughter. Number 18. The Tick. The Amazon edition of the Tick series follows a humble young man named Arthur. Arthur is a typical office worker with few ambitions and life goals. But when Arthur meets Danny, who may be a real-life superhero or a fantasy, Arthur begins to reveal his own hero, bolstered by Peter Serafinovich's turn as the wonderfully goofy protagonist. Number 19. Undone. Arguably one of the most beautiful shows on Amazon Prime, Undone seamlessly combines regular cinematography with animation. After surviving a near-death car accident, a young woman finds herself now in a new and interesting relationship. And surprisingly, it is her late father who helps her cope. Number 20. Upload. In the not-too-distant future, death will no longer be the end of human life. When Nathan Brown dies prematurely, he can choose the afterlife he wants to live in. However, this virtual world has its drawbacks, and as he tries to get used to it, he realizes that his death was not an accident. Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video.